This hearing turned emotional after Senator Patty Murray confronted the Justice Department over Epstein survivor information being exposed publicly, including names, personal details, and even nude photos. Murray demanded an apology, accusing the DOJ of protecting powerful abusers while re-traumatizing victims all over again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Attorney General, right now, families are paying $4, $5, even $6 or $7 for gas. Inflation is at its highest level in years because of the president's policies. But instead of helping Americans get by, President Trump is literally using their tax dollars to set up a slush fund to enrich his own friends. On Monday, your department settled the president's lawsuit by setting up a fund with $1.8 billion, and you and the president will pick the handful of people who decide how that money gets doled out. So let's be clear. What we're talking about is nothing short of the sitting president of the United States looting from the Treasury for his own gain. Do you seriously think this arrangement is appropriate? The president telling the federal government to settle a case and let him pay billions to the people that he chooses?
What you just described wouldn't be appropriate, and that's absolutely not what happened, and that's not what's happening now. So you just set up a series of facts, most of which were not true.
No,
No, it's not. I mean,
the president has set up a slush fund, however you want to say that it got set up, and he literally will get to choose through his hand-picked appointees who gets paid that fund. That is absurd.
The president did not set up this fund. It's not a slush fund. It's been done many times. We have lots of funds.
I heard your response earlier to Senator Van Hollen. This is not comparable to the case that you cited. A judge was not involved. This is the president versus himself setting up a fund.
The judge wasn't involved in the distribution in the Keep Siegel case at all. It just wasn't. There was a single commissioner that was set up, not five. And so when
the judge signed off on that case.
Yes, it was at a much later point in the litigation.
That's right. My point. That is all of our point. And I just have to tell you, this is corruption that has never been more blatant or more widespread. What is happening is you write the check, Trump and his cronies cash it, American taxpayers, who are already being whacked with high prices, are going to foot the bill. That's what we are seeing today, and that is what many of us are really, really angry about. So let me move to another topic. This Department of Justice is sending the message that if you're wealthy, if you're powerful, if you are well-connected, you won't be held accountable even if you abuse children. You know, it's after Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act and DOJ finally began to release the files, your department exposed survivors' names, their sensitive personal information, and even nude photos, while redacting names of alleged perpetrators of those crimes. The message that sends is this Department of Justice worked harder to protect the privacy of potential child abusers than the survivors. Your predecessor refused to apologize to those victims, but I want to give you the same opportunity to apologize for the way the department handled the release of these documents. Will you apologize to the survivors?
When the president passed the Epstein Transparency Act, that was the only time, when the president signed the Transparency Act, that was when we were legally allowed to release the files. Prior to the passage of the act, which you all passed, I agree.
That is not the question I'm asking.
It was the question you asked. You asked 5 or 6 questions. I'm answering them in order.
No,
that was one of the questions you asked.
The question I want you to answer is, will you apologize to the victims whose names, sensitive personal information, and even nude photos were not redacted by your department? Will you apologize
to them? Of course. We never want to release a single victim's name.
They are hearing.
But can I answer the question, please? Is
I'm
it fair?
asking if you'll apologize.
So I just said yes, but I would like an explanation to be given to that. What this act did is it required us to review over 6 million pieces of paper in a very short period of time. And so 0.001%, we made mistakes, and we owned up to them. And the second that a victim or their lawyer told us that we made a mistake, we pulled that document down, and we put lawyers 24/7 in being responsive to victims and their lawyers to make sure that we fixed every single problem. And so, yes,
I hear your anger.
I'm not
And I
angry.
will
No, I'm
tell
not
you,
angry.
I hear
I'm
your
just
anger,
making sure
and I
it's
will tell you
understood
who's really
that
angry is
we
people who
matter.
had their
That
nude photos released. I just want to hear you say I apologize to those victims.
So, as I just said, of course, any time we release a victim's name that shouldn't be released, we have failed as a Department of Justice. And so we have to do everything that we can to not fail.
Well, I haven't heard the words I apologize.
I'm trying to give you an explanation of what happened. I don't think you're really interested in that because you keep on cutting me off.
But I have a few more questions here, and I want to know, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this, but I want to ask, will you personally commit to meeting with the survivors? I have heard from them personally that DOJ refused to meet them, and I'm asking about you. I'm asking about the Justice Department reaching out to them to be heard, not waiting for them to navigate a legal system that has obviously repeatedly failed them so far.
Can I answer?
Yeah, will you reach out to them?
So, as we have said repeatedly, of course, any lawyer, now if a victim has a lawyer, I'm not allowed to reach out to the victim directly, you know that. But any lawyer can reach out to the Department of Justice. They have, and I've met with many victims and their lawyers, as has the FBI, as has the SDNY. We will always meet with victims' counsel. Any victim or their lawyer can come forward to the FBI
with these
at
women,
any time.
and I've met with them, and I know Senator Van Hollen has, and so many other. They are personally so feeling abused again and again and again by what happened to them originally, and now what's happening by them. I am saying to you, as a human being, who don't make them navigate a system that is impossible to navigate, that's already abused them. Reach out and ask to meet with them.
You're asking me to call, you want me to personally call the victims? Is that what you're asking me to do?
I can help you reach them.
Oh, that would be great. Yes, because we have said from day one, of course, there have been members that have done that. And we immediately reach out to the victims or their lawyers when the lawyers want and say they want to do it.
We will follow up on that. Thank you very much.
This Senate hearing became far more than a debate about legal procedure or government transparency. What unfolded was an emotional and deeply uncomfortable confrontation over whether the Justice Department failed some of the very people it claimed it was trying to protect. Survivors connected to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse network. Senator Patty Murray came into this hearing furious, and she made that clear immediately. At first, she attacked what she described as a politically connected compensation fund tied to President Trump and his allies, calling it a slush fund that allowed insiders to potentially benefit from taxpayer money. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche strongly rejected that characterization, accusing Murray of distorting the facts and defending the legality of the arrangement. But while that exchange was heated, the hearing truly changed once Murray shifted toward the Epstein files and the treatment of survivors. That's when the atmosphere in the room became noticeably more emotional. Murray accused the Justice Department of exposing survivors' names, personal information, and even nude photographs while protecting the identities of alleged perpetrators. And her broader argument was devastating, that the system once again failed victims while shielding the powerful. Politically, this issue is explosive because public distrust surrounding the Epstein case already runs extremely deep. Many Americans believe wealthy and politically connected figures escaped accountability for years, and any mistake involving survivor protection immediately reinforces fears that institutions care more about protecting elites than victims. Murray understood that dynamic and leaned into it hard. She repeatedly demanded something very simple from Blanche, an apology. And what made this exchange so tense was that Blanche kept trying to explain the process instead of directly giving the emotional acknowledgement Murray was demanding. He defended the department by saying the Epstein Transparency Act required the DOJ to process millions of documents under intense time pressure, and he admitted mistakes were made. He also insisted the department moved quickly to remove improperly released material once victims or attorneys alerted them. But Murray wasn't really asking for procedural explanations. She wanted moral accountability. Again and again, she pushed him to simply say, "I apologize." That distinction matters because this hearing wasn't really about whether mistakes technically happened. It was about whether the Justice Department fully grasped the emotional damage caused when survivors of sexual abuse have their identities or private information exposed publicly. And honestly, that's why this exchange hit so hard. At several points, Murray stopped sounding like a politician arguing policy and started sounding like someone personally frustrated by what she viewed as institutional indifference toward victims who already suffered immense trauma. The most revealing moment may have come near the end when Murray pleaded with the DOJ to stop making survivors navigate a system that had already failed them repeatedly. Instead of waiting for lawyers and formal requests, she urged Blanche and the department to proactively reach out to survivors themselves. Blanche appeared genuinely defensive, but also somewhat constrained by legal protocol, repeatedly explaining that attorneys represent many victims, and that the DOJ cannot always directly contact represented individuals. Still, politically, the optics were difficult, because while Blanche offered explanations and process details, Murray kept returning to something simpler: human empathy, and that contrast became the defining theme of the hearing. Supporters of the DOJ will argue the department was put in an impossible situation handling millions of sensitive records under legal deadlines and that mistakes, while serious, were corrected quickly. Critics will argue the hearing exposed a justice system that still struggles to prioritize victims over institutional protection and damage control. But regardless of political perspective, this hearing highlighted something bigger. Public trust in the justice system becomes fragile when victims feel unheard, exposed, or re-traumatized by the very institutions meant to protect them. And in cases as emotionally charged as Epstein's, even small failures can deepen that distrust dramatically. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did Senator Murray expose serious failures in how the DOJ handled the Epstein files? Or was the department being unfairly attacked over mistakes made during a massive document release process? And for more political breakdowns and hearing analysis, subscribe to The State Lens.